Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji, with me is Alushi. How you doing, boy?
I'm doing great, man. So happy to be on the pod. First time podcaster, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm really looking forward to it and chatting some footy with you.
I love that. Yeah, it's finally good to put a face to your account name. Glad to know you don't actually look like Kevin De Bruyne. Sorry to disappoint the listeners as well.
I wish I really looked like Kevin De Bruyne, let me tell you.
And I refer to you as Alushi because that's your Discord name, right? On the Banter Boys Discord. So I maybe you want to do a little bit of an introduction, who you are, where you're from, the club that you support as well.
Yeah, so my name is Andrew. That's the A in Alucci, Andrew Genalucci. So just an abbreviated version of my name. Not very creative, but I've been using that as like a gamer tag and handle for things or whatnot since I was like a kid. So it's just kind of stuck. I am born and raised in Pennsylvania, actually, but currently live in New York with my wife and two kids. So moved out here, after college, and we kind of have settled here. Support Man City. Been supporting them for a while now. Probably controversially, right around the time they were taken over, I think. But frankly, there's no like real rhyme or reason to it beyond I was growing up playing in like the mid to late 2000s, and everyone loved United primarily, but Chelsea, Liverpool, and I was like, I don't want to support those guys that everyone's supporting. When you're from the US, there's no locality attached to like anything you're supporting, it, so you're always just like picking random teams. And I was like, I like Carlos Tevez, like I like Sky Blue, not Man United, so like let's do it. And it's kind of stuck ever since. So
I kind of get that because I grew up in a generation that Arsenal, United, and Liverpool were the top clubs to kind of support. And at the time when I guess I decided to pick a player, it was Frank Lampard, and Chelsea was just coming up as well. So I guess a bit of an awkward timing as well because that was right around the time they started also becoming good. But yeah, I totally get it. How long have you been playing Fantrax for now? Or I guess Playtoker or Draft?
Yeah, I've been playing Fantrax for I think 5 or 6 years now, and I did play Taga originally, like when it was a thing. Funnily enough, I started off playing Taga, and then it went away, and I was kind of just like forced back into like traditional FPL because I like didn't know where to go. And then one of my buddies, who's actually one of the guys from Overthinking Football, that's how I got like more involved in the community. I was playing, just fantasy with him, and he's like, hey, you should check out Fantrax. And it was like, he's like, it's based on Taga scoring and whatever. It's like, oh, I played Taga. That's great. Like, would love to do that because I hated regular FPL and like the scoring and all that.
Yeah, that's a bullshit.
Yeah,
bullshit platform.
Yeah, it was awful. So I was super happy to make the move over and have been playing ever since, and have since gotten more involved. For a while it was just a home league that I was like doing with some of my sort of buddies from college and extended friends, but have gotten more involved in like some of the more like community leagues and stuff lately, and it's been super fun. It's a great community of people. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of community league, I think you're in the Super League as well. Some of the elite performing managers, or is that a different Super League?
So this is the Discord Super League. So this is that one that's like
okay.
Run on Discord. They recently switched the rules, so it's like a lineup lock league, but you have extra roster slots. It's super fun. I don't know. It's like a 10-man rosters, four divisions, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 tiers. So it's been fun. Good group of guys, and gals, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Discord and being part of leagues, you're in a couple of our crazy leagues as well. How are you enjoying the Discord so far? Not to like shamelessly plug us or whatever, but I've never actually been able to like ask people, oh, what do you think of this space?
Oh, it's awesome! It's so great. There, I mean, I feel like I've gotten friendly with like a bunch of people, particularly doing the leagues, like not only participating in like the Banta channels and like getting involved that way, but like getting involved in some of the fun leagues that you guys run has been a super great way to meet people and just have casual conversations about fantasy or football generally. It's been fun. the one we're doing, the Super League, has been super fun. I was just like, sure, like, let's do it. I have no idea what to expect from this. It's been a really fun league, and it's just been awesome. It's had to made me stretch my creative thinking about like who to draft, who to pick up, who to drop, as I stubbornly hold on to Kevin De Bruyne and lose points every week.
I know we had a very fun trade in that league, right?
Yeah.
Given our allegiances to our club, we swapped Palmer for Haaland. I mean, at the time we were both kind of hesitant about it as well, but it turned out okay, I think, for both of
Yeah, I
us.
think
Like,
it's fine. I think they've been both pretty fine since then, and I don't think you've been pulling away at the top there, though. I was chasing you for a while, and I think you've got it pretty in hand now.
yeah, I'm so happy as well. This was the week we finally got the lowest score, and we're on gift duty, and I'm having so much fun.
It's the best. It's like almost like you want to lose and just have to communicate with
Yes,
all the time.
exactly. Oh, so I mean, before we get started with everything, you mentioned you're a Man City fan. After having that 4 in a row title run, how does it feel to be a City fan this season? Because I mean, you lost basically your most important player, Rodri, early on in the season, and things kind of just slowly fell apart in a sense. Yeah. So just some thoughts about how the season has gone and what are you expecting, moving forward in that sense.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I think in some ways it feels like you don't have the right to complain because it's just been so good for so long that you're like, well, like I guess we just got to take this one on the chin and take our lumps and kind of like, go from here. I think the part that's frustrating about it is it felt preventable in some ways. Like I think every fan you talked to over the summer, it's like, what is the one thing we need to do this summer window? It's like sign a Rodri backup. What did we not do? Sign a Rodri backup. Like, everybody knew that Kyle Walker was past it. Like, did we replace that position appropriately? No. I just feel like the writing has been on the wall. Even last season, I think some of our performances were like indicative of where we were headed this season. And I think we were always fearful of like what happens if Rodri gets hurt. And not only did Rodri get hurt, he got hurt for all or the majority of the season. And we're seeing exactly what is happening when Rodri gets hurt. And not that I think you can chalk it all up to just Rodri being out. I think there's sort of a confluence of other factors, fatigue, aging core group of players, like all of the things kind of hitting the fan at once, so to speak. But like I said, I think some of the future planning there was poor, which is frustrating from a club that's been pretty good at planning for the future and pretty smart about when to move on from players, when to bring in fresh blood historically. And some of the accounts I follow on Twitter, like some of the City accounts, have been saying like, hopefully this summer is good because it sounds like there's going to be a pretty large exodus of some of our core old names. And I think, one of the accounts I follow was saying like, hopefully it forces Pep's hand a little bit. Like hopefully, some of this allegiance he's displaying to Gundo, like some of these old heads that like he just keeps putting in the team, he'll have to figure something else out because it's not working very well at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even though the season has been a bit meh for you guys, I want to say, like, rest of season, you guys have one of the better fixture runs. And is it possibly time to try and stash as many Man City assets as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going for it, certainly. Like, I don't want to let my own club allegiance influence what everyone else is doing, but I certainly think we have players in there who are very valuable Fantrax-wise. Particularly Doku, if he keeps staying in the team, Savinho, Marmouche are the ones that I have been trying to get everywhere and anywhere that I can. I actually have them in quite a few leagues, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say whether this season becomes just like a nobody gives a shit, we'll focus on next year, and it's just kind of like these tepid performances keep continuing, or it's like, we start focusing on the future and start bringing in some of the younger players and newer players, and that starts kicking on in some sense by the end of the year. But I don't ever count City out. I think their assets are always going to be valuable Fantrax wise. So
Yeah.
get them while you can, I guess, if you're so inclined. But don't overpay for them, is what I would say. Don't, don't trade out someone who's really performing for you for a City asset. But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like even next season, how we consider them, because the race for the Champions League spots are so tight at the moment. Like, it's not guaranteed for you guys by any means.
nope. We'll see. I mean, in some ways, Fantrax wise, that would probably be a great thing.
Fantastic, I think.
It would be great for our assets to not have Champions League. But as a fan, you want to see it happen. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how things shake out. My kind of thought on the rest of the season is focus on getting the Champions League, focus on the FA Cup, like bring home some silverware if we can, and focus on next year. But I'd like to see Pep start to think about what the future looks like without some of these players that are leaving or reportedly leaving, and see if we can get a glimpse into what next year might look like. Not that that'll necessarily happen. This is all my own desire.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. I think let's before we get started, I need to do all the boring regular biz. I was so excited to chat footy. I was like, let's just start a pod. But listeners, welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. We are a default Fantrax pod. You've caught us on our regular free version that we do every game week, basically recaps and predicting the game week, that sort of stuff. The reason I say free is because we do have some extra content that you can get on our Patreon. Right now, for the lowest price is ever going to be for $1 a month, or if you want to donate more. But there you can find Inside Tracks pods, waiver pods is usually the main thing that kind of come out before your waiver runs usually occur. And yeah, just some extra content during international break and stuff like that. But in terms of the regular pod, like today's pod, the format is we have two halves. In the first half, we do a data dump. So we just do a recap of the default scoring categories, the top performers essentially. Then we do a league update section where we catch up in our leagues, any results, regrets, roster concerns, that sort of jazz. Then we take our halftime pint, and then after that, we jump back in to answer questions that we get from our loyal fans, listeners, friends on our Discord, and how you can submit questions, or how can you get to the Discord even. Just DM me for a link. It's absolutely free. And yeah, come join the fun, like Andrew suggested. But other than that, what I'll get Ross to do now is the social plugs. So Ross, please do that right here.
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BantaB. On Discord in the Draft PL channel, BantaBoys #6585. On Reddit, /Banta_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the name of Banta Boys.
Okay, so hopefully you've listened to Ross. If you're listening to us on Spotify, if you don't mind going to our main page really quickly, giving us a 5-star rating. We still have that goal to get 100 5-star ratings, or just 100 ratings in general, by the end of the season. It would be fantastic. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, if you're not already following or subscribed to the channel, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up button, it would help us out a massive way. And other than that, if you've done all of that, feel free to leave a comment. I always respond to all the comments. Really appreciate all the engagement. But yeah, that's all the boring biz out of the way. I guess to also timestamp this, we're recording on Tuesday evening. It's halftime in the Champions League at the moment. Liverpool are losing to PSG. A lot of Newcastle fans are hoping that they push it to penalties and then lose on penalties. But yeah, let's see. There's a lot of football still to come our way before we get to the weekend. But I think let's just get started.
Ay, 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 ay. Fantasy. with the Banta boys.
All right, so we're going to start with the data dump. As always, we're going to start with key passes. Looking back at Game Week 28, the highest number of key passes recorded was 6 by Luis Diaz, Enzo Fernandez, Mo Salah, and Wharton from Crystal Palace, and then 4 key passes by Pedro Neto. Thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's nice to see Luis Diaz on there again. I think that this is 2 weeks in a row for him, right? He was up there last week again, right? And I think it's that him playing on that left wing spot certainly is helping his production in that respect. Salah doesn't surprise me; just keeps doing Salah things. Enzo, I'm kicking myself because I feel like there was a time like months ago that I should have picked him up, and he's been really good lately, and he would have been a pretty steady Eddie in my midfield that is very hit or miss at the moment. So I like Enzo as an asset. You were talking about last week, right? That we might have to see how he does with Caicedo back, but if he's putting up numbers like that, I'd love to get him in my team if I could. And then Wharton is an interesting one. Did Wharton take any sets this weekend? Do you know?
I mean, the best place to actually check that out is the Banter Board website. So we're constantly like tweaking the website, adding new features and stuff like that. And I think one of the things that we added was being able to check who takes the corners and the corners and the free kicks every single game week. So if I look it up right now, that would have been... Did he update the website? I don't think he updated it. Oh, I did a whole plug and he didn't update it. I meant to re-update it or whatever like that. But I think before that, I believe he was taking some set pieces. I know like Eze typically dominates most of them, but there's a chance that he was. But in general, like, I mean, eye test wise, he usually is one of the best passers in the league. I think like in terms of forward passing, let's call it that. I don't know. He came back in and all of a sudden he's been stringing a lot of key passes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to me. I feel like he's not a name I've seen on this list many, many times historically. So definitely one I'll keep my eye on.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the last game right now. So typically, I usually go to like FootMob for the stats. So if I pull it up right now in terms of corners, Wharton took 3 and Eze took 2 against Ipswich.
I'm looking right now to see if he's available in any of my leagues.
I mean, with respect to Enzo as well, like, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much in the sense that he did have a dip in form at one point, and I think it's just that Maresca just figured out a solution again to get the best out of him and to find a balance in the squad without the likes of Nico Jackson, without the likes of Lavia. So I do think that it will continue, though, in the sense that, yes, he's found the solution without them. And now when they come back, he should still retain that role somewhat. I mean, he takes corners as well. That always helps him. The thing is with Neto, though, my concern is I feel like Neto is the one that's probably going to drop off from this list because he's been playing the Nico Jackson role, right? Yes, he takes some corners here and there. He takes some free kicks here and there as well. But yeah, I feel like right now, the person you're probably going to want to sell high from this list is Pedro Neto. Yeah,
I agree with that. He, of anyone on this list, was the one that I most was like, meh. Like, interesting statistically, but it doesn't, make me want to go out and try and trade for him necessarily because I still feel like that Chelsea attack is very fluid and whether he retains a starting spot or the current role he's playing in that 11 is very much up for debate when Jackson is back and everyone is fit and firing. So I think I traded him out earlier this year, actually, and have not regretted trading him out despite his good recent performances.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, other than that, like you said, the usual suspects, who'd have thunk it that Luis Diaz plays in his best position and puts up points. Yeah. Easy game this is, eh? Football.
As a City fan, this is my like Pep tirade sometimes. I love Pep. Obviously, he's done so much good for our club, but I'm like sometimes like just play people where they're supposed to be playing on the field. Like stop putting people in weird positions and like maybe they'll do the things that they normally do. So
yeah.
Ditto Luis Diaz. He's I think as far as the eye test goes, he's very much most naturally a left winger, and the fantasy stats seem to be backing that up.
Yep. All right, let's move on to next category, shots on how many on target. So the high sum of shots recorded was 6 by 2 players. Eberechi Eze, who had 0 of his 6 on target. Trossard had 1 of his 6 on target. And then 5 shots attempted by Tibebe. He got 1 of them on target. Odegaard had 3 of his 5 on target. Cole Palmer had 1 of his 5 on target, got substituted in the 72nd minute. And mind you, that was the penalty that got saved. And then finally, Mo Salah, as always on this list, he had 2 of his 5 shots on target. Thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah. What I'm taking away from this is not a lot of people are hitting the target this week. No, just kidding. Yeah, I was particularly interested by Trent and wondering, I mean, obviously he gets a decent volume of shots, like more so than than typical right backs do, but I'm wondering if that is a Southampton thing or a he's getting into more attacking positions. I would be willing to bet the latter, probably, and it's making me wonder. He had a really good performance last week, like really better ghosting, considering like no clean sheet than I've seen him put up in a while. And I own him in a few places, and I was like, do I try to trade him out on the back of this? Do I just hang on and hope these performances continue? Not really sure what to do with that one, but that one stuck out to me. Odegaard as well stuck out because I know he hasn't been performing the best Fantrax wise lately. So seeing him put up those kind of numbers shooting wise is encouraging, and hopefully he, is coming back into his best form, and he's scoring in the Champions League last week. Otherwise, Salah par for course. I think Palmer as all high volume shooters typically, so nothing like particularly interesting for me there, but Trent and Odegaard certainly caught my interest.
Yeah, so I think it's the Southampton effect for Trent because in this game, like we mentioned, 5 shots. Before that, 0 shots against Newcastle, 0 shots against Man City, 1 shot against Villa, 2 against Wolves, 0 against Everton. And then before that, he got like 3-2, 4-2 against Bournemouth, Ipswich, Brentford, and Forest. So yeah, I think definitely it's a hint towards, yes, Southampton are a shit team, so he's easily going to have the opportunity to progress the ball further up the pitch, pick it up in better positions, have a pop at goal, etc., etc. And Odegaard is he's been a source of massive frustration for a lot of managers this season. I think it hurts that, he's missing his partner in action, Bukayo Saka. Yep. They have such a good chemistry down that right-hand side. But again, I think this is also a fixture thing because, they came up against your neighbors, and your neighbors are pretty fucking shit this season.
That they are.
If anything, that's another, point of positivity to take on this season, even if you guys have shot the bed. They managed to double down.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing that warms my heart in comparing United's defense to Southampton's and comparing that sort of fixture difficulties. So I definitely think there's a fixture element in both of those. So I'm not too excited about either of them, but certainly something I'm keeping an eye on. In Trent's case particularly, I'm wondering if I should be trying to farm him out. I don't know. I love Trent, though, so it's it's a weird one. And Liverpool defensive assets are good in and of themselves a lot of times, but I don't think Trent's ghosting numbers have been what they once were. So I wonder if there's opportunity there.
Yeah, I'd be tempted to sell him high because you'd assume once Liverpool wrap up the league, and if they're still in the Champions League, they're probably going to focus on keeping everyone fit for the Champions League running, right? The only reason why I would probably be hesitant is the fact that uh Connor Bradley is still injured. I don't know if he wants to deploy Kwanzaa in that right back spot, but yeah, I mean, a crunch time part of the season, you want to target assets with something to kind of play for in that sense, right? And a pick like Trent should be able, you should be able to. Well, you might have to package him with someone, but maybe be able to get like the likes of like Acuna or something like that. I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a good shout there. Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking is like good performance combined with end of season, Champions League considerations, possibly rest and rotation. Madrid rumors haven't, gone anywhere. There's nothing definitive on that front either. So between all of those factors, I'm kind of wondering, is there an opportunity to bring someone in who's going to be more of a steady Eddie in my team for the rest of the season, or more of a high upside performer? Either or, really. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, even assets that are like chasing European football in general, like from Bournemouth, you can look at the likes of maybe Kluivert or Kluivert.
Yeah.
From Villa, maybe an Ollie Watkins. Brighton, I feel like Brighton's always a team that has too many cooks that I like to kind of avoid in general. Newcastle, maybe you look at the likes of like an Isak or a Gordon. I mean, Gordon's been out of form, so maybe you go Isak. And I mean, your boys, like your City boys as well, right? They will obviously be chasing Champions League position as well. So I think the fact that, yes, Liverpool are pretty much safe in all aspects, like, you could even gamble on going for an Arsenal asset as well, right? Because they have kind of been looking a little shaky. Maybe you look at a Chelsea asset like Cole Palmer. I think last spot I mentioned, I feel like now is your best chance of buying low on him. Like the missed penalty, the poor performances, like maybe you do like a Trent +1 and get a Cole.
Yeah, that was actually, that's funny you say that, because that was when I was thinking, who could I trade Trent for? That was the first name that came to mind. It was whether I could package something for Palmer. And the Palmer owner is one of the lowest performers in my league, so I'm wondering if I could give him a couple good players for Palmer and see if I could get something done that way.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm going to give it some thought on the back of this.
Yeah, food for thought. Next category then. I think we're good on that one, right?
Yeah.
Eze Trossard, like, Tross is shooting, like, he's always shooting. Somebody needs to fucking shoot the ball for Arsenal. And,
like you said, playing
no Mateta.
Playing United.
Oh,
so,
sorry?
Like you said, playing United, so
yeah, exactly.
Volumes to be expected.
There you go. And Eze, I figure, is up there because Mateta's out injured. They're gonna need another volume shooter. I mean, Sarr doesn't really strike me as a volume shooter. It's frustrating now he's starting to get the goals. I know a lot of people trusted him while Mateta was fit and he was doing fuck all, but yeah, I think one of them, either one of them, you probably want to kind of jump on. Okay, next category is accurate crosses. Highest number 3 by Elanga. Any thoughts here?
I would love to say that this is a surprise to me, but considering they played City and were shit, and that we tend to leave our flanks really exposed and invite way too many crosses into our box, I'm not surprised by this one at all.
Yeah. Man. City has been an interesting team to say the least this season, but Elanga always shows up here and there in terms of crosses, but yeah, I would have never expected in this fixture out of all fixtures. Anyways, extra categories. So tackles won, the highest number was 6 by Idrissa Gueye. Dispossessions, the highest number was 6 as well by Doku and João Gomes. Interceptions, a high of 4 by Christie and Ryan Manning. Clearances, a high of 16 by Housen, the guy that everyone thought tore his ACL from some random fucking rumor. Successful dribbles, a high of 7 by Doku again on this list. And then aerials, a high of 8 by Colwell, and block shots, a high of 5 by Greaves. Thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I like the Jacob Greaves block shots numbers. That's pretty good volume. I've been looking at him a few places lately again because, I don't know, I always have trouble taking like a relegation bound defender in some respects, but that volume is just so good. He puts up such good high volume defensive numbers that I know people were looking at him a lot earlier in the season, and that one stands out to me. Huijsen, love to see it. Have him a few places, and he's a beast. I think I spent 2 fab on him.
He's been a godsend to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I spent 2 fab on him after Sensi got injured, and he just like hasn't left my back line since. Tackles 1, Doku.
I was surprised you didn't start with Doku.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, I love the guy. I think that him showing up on this stat sheet the way he did is pretty much indicative of him as a fantasy asset and as just a player in general. 6 dispossessions, 6 completed dribbles. I mean, I think if you can get him in your team, get him in your team. He's been starting lately, and again, I wonder, is he going to be afforded more opportunity with City's form, with the fact that like what we're really competing for at this point is a Champions League spot? You know, looking to the future, are they going to give him more opportunity there? Because he's going to put up those kind of dribble numbers against anyone and everyone he plays against. He also might put up that many dispossession numbers against everyone. But I don't know. I am not sure, to be honest with you, whether he becomes nailed in City's lineup. I expect we're going to see a fair bit of chopping and changing the rest of the season, but I do expect he'll get minutes. So if you have the ability to hold a rotation-prone asset who's going to put up, 10-plus ghosts a game, someone I would definitely look at. 8 aerials for Colwill stands out for me. I guess maybe I haven't looked into the stats that much in his historical numbers, but he doesn't seem like someone who's very prone to winning that many aerials, so that caught my eye as something that I wasn't expecting to see on the sheet.
Colwell typically tends to soak up most of the defensive ghost points from the Chelsea backline. So he might not do this aerial thing every game week, but I feel like he's always going to be in and around one of the top category players or whatever for Chelsea.
Yeah, definitely. No, I knew he had put up fairly solid ghosts, but I didn't necessarily think of him as an aerial monster in the way you would think of, some of our other top aerial winning assets. So,
yeah, that's fair. But I think the rest of them seem fairly standard. My only point before we move on to the next segment is with Greaves. I know he's had a history of putting up some really, really good scores. It kind of makes me nervous though. I think he did have like 2 back-to-back negative scores recently. So it's just like at the end of the day, they're still like a promoted team, right? So I think Aston Villa, he got negative 0.75 in a 1-1 draw. Against Spurs in the 4-1 loss, okay, sure, negative 4.25. You expect something close to 0. And then only 1 point against United in the 3-2 loss. So it's the fact that he has that in his locker, like he can potentially drop a fucking goose egg on you, like in any matchup, is why I think I'd rather keep that spot as like a streaming spot in my roster.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I guess I should caveat that by saying I've been looking at him for like favorable matchups or in a pinch maybe as someone I'd be willing to stream, but I'm not looking to roster him long term necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Let's move on to our next segment then, which is the league updates. All right, Andrew, since you are our guest on the pod, I'll let you go first. Tell me, how was game week 28?
It was a mixed bag for me. So I'm in 3 leagues, 1, 2, lost 1. So a positive. The unfortunate thing is I lost my home league match, which I am now 3 wins away from the top spot instead of 2 after I beat the guy in first last week. So that was and I lost by, I think, 5 points, so it was a tough one to take. And I think my opponent, if I remember correctly, he started Son from the bench and got all of those Son points, and that's one of the game week, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But
yeah.
good win in the Discord Super League, which is my most, competitive league, so I'll take that. I'm in a quite close race for some of the playoff spots in the promotion playoff spots for that, and I am back to winning ways in the Super League, so that was good. I had a few rough weeks there, so it was nice to pick up a win there.
So, in terms of your Discord Super League, who were some of your standout performers? Did you have any regrets, any roster concerns?
Yeah, so standout performances. I'm gonna give a shout out to Hermanson because I seriously debated dropping this week because he's been pretty shit. Because Leicester are pretty shit, and I do this thing with goalies constantly where I don't draft a goalie. I hate everything about goalies and Fantrax. I feel like I constantly will bring someone in who looks like they have fairly decent fixtures, mid-table, generally high volume of saves, maybe some clean sheet potential. They'll give me 0 or negative points. I'll hold them for a few game weeks. They'll be terrible. And then the second I drop them, they'll be good again. And that cycle just repeats perpetually. I'll pick someone up. They're terrible. I'll drop them. They'll start being good again. So I think I've had Hermanson for 3 weeks, and he's been really bad. Less than 5 points, I think, a game. Maybe he put up 6 or 7 one week. I can't remember. But I was like, F it, it's Chelsea. High volume of shots, not looking for a clean sheet, just see what he can do. And he saved a pen and put up 22 points. And to boot, my opponent had Palmer, so I got the point swing.
What a swing!
Of him not making the pen and the pen save for Hermanson, and I think it actually won me the game week, so that was pretty great.
Amazing.
So he was a huge shout out to him. I'll probably just let him sit there, and he'll probably get me negative points again next week, but it's whatever. Minta has been great. Picked him up a lot of places when he started to come back into the team. I think I got him for 1 fab in the Discord Super League when he started coming back in, which is great, and he's been great. He's been lights out in terms of ghosts, getting some attacking contributions here and there. And like we were talking about earlier, Trent had a really great week in terms of ghosts. No clean sheet against Southampton, but I think he still put up 17 or so. So he was great. And I have all of those players in my home league as well. So
that's a pretty good situation to be in then.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people try to sort of spread out their assets and take a little bit of see what hits in what league. I am an all in kind of guy. If I like an asset in one league, I'm gonna pick him up everywhere and pray that he's good and I'm going to either win all of my leagues or lose them all. So,
because it's always a weird situation. You're cheering on the asset, but in a different league, you're facing them, and it's oh my god, this is
I hate that feeling.
Why am I doing this to myself?
I hate that feeling. That's actually probably the main reason is I just hate that feeling of being I need you to score me this many points in this league, but not so much that I lose this in this league, and it's just a terrible feeling. Or when you get yourself into the situation that okay, this might win me one matchup, but will definitely lose me another one. It's just an awful feeling. So try to avoid that where I
can. Any regrets across those leagues?
Discord, I benched CHO for I think which one of them started this week? Savigno started this week, not Marmouche, and I had a feeling it was one of those City versus Forest. I'm City are going to be shit, and CHO is going to score, and there we were. And thankfully, it didn't come back to bite me. But it very well could have come back to bite me. So I was definitely sweating that one after the first matchup. The home league, I don't know. Like I said, I lost by 5, but I still put up a big score. So I really don't know what I could have done differently there. I guess if I had to pick one thing, maybe starting Matoma, because his ghosts have been awful lately. And I guess I put that on, I'm saying that more as a talking point of, he's been very lackluster unless he's scoring or assisting lately. And it's been frustrating as an owner because he was sort of one of my midfield stalwarts for the first half of the season and has kind of gone off the boil now. So not sure what exactly is going on there from a Brighton perspective, but I don't think I regret it in the sense that obviously I had to start him, but he's been a frustrating one for me.
Yeah, he has his moments. Like I think he did actually score in this game, but the play got ruled out for offside or something like that. I think like Minter or something was offside for the play. But yeah, I mean, he pops up with attacking returns here and there. There'll be some games where he just randomly goes, but then yes, there's definitely ones where he gave you like a 1, a 2, something like that. And it's a weird one to kind of how you value him on draft day, because he tends to go like between round 2 and round 3 in most leagues I've been part of.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, to your point, his ghost points are like there, but not consistently there. Like I remember early part of the season, there were weeks where no attacking returns, he was putting up 8, 10 with key passes and dribbles and, a few tackles, one here and there. But now it's been pretty shit, like in terms of the ghost points. Like it's all been attacking returns when he's scoring more than 10 points. And he tends to blow hot and cold in that way, and he can be frustrating. And if I were drafting today, I don't think I'd take him as early as 2 or 3. But at the same point, he has it in his locker, so it's hard to pass him up as well. I don't know.
Yeah. In terms of roster concerns, what do you have in both leagues?
So for the Discord league, I think my biggest issue, which is part of the fun for me, is my Brighton. I have massive Brighton and City stacks somehow, and I don't really know how I manage this.
Aren't they playing each other this week?
Oh yeah, which is going to add to the fun. And what is inevitably going to happen is I'm going to start my City players, and the Brighton players are going to go off, and I'm going to lose, and it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But no, I think I have. So I think my biggest headache is I have a bunch of really good forwards in that league, but I never know who to start in any given week because they're all sort of those like blow hot, blow cold kind of players. Like I think I have Minta, I mentioned. I have João Pedro and Ruter as a handcuff. And then I have Savinho and Marmouche and CHO. So I'm always like, all of these players are the kind that are like, they could get you 30 points. They could get you 0 points.
5.
And I routinely pick the wrong one. I'm just like, so that is a headache. But honestly, I think the biggest concern going into this game week for this roster is my midfield has just been meh. Like it's just been like Mitoma hasn't been great. KDB is my mid one. Who the hell knows if he's going to start? I just feel like it hasn't been doing the business as far as my midfield goes, and but there's not a lot available in terms of like what's there on the waiver wire. So I'm kind of just like muddling through with what I have, and trying to think if there's anything I need to shake up there. The home league, I think defensive depth is my biggest issue. I actually only roster, I think, 3 defenders because I think I have like Tark. It's a home league, so like there are players there to be had, and I think I have like Trent, Tarks, and Estupinan, I think, are my 3 defenders, and I usually just set and forget them and just start them every week. And like, if one of them's benched for some reason, I'll just drop someone random from my bench and like fill it in with the streamer if I really have to. But Trent is blanking this week, so I need to figure out a solution there. Rashford hasn't been starting. So I've been debating, like, do I keep holding Rashford? Is it time to cut ties? And Nico from Man City, I was really hoping for some Rodri-esque numbers there, but it hasn't come to pass. So I think I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and drop him as well.
Yeah, I'd probably drop Nico in both your leagues. Listen, we're in the crunch time of the season as well. I'd drop Rashford if he doesn't start. And you mentioned like in both scenarios, like you've got like the value of like name value of KDB in your league. You've got a Trent that you're kind of doubting. You've got a Mitoma that you're doubting as well. Remember, we talked about Cole Palmer possibly. Even with home league, if you've got a lot of good defensive options on the waiver wire, there's option for you to then trade Trent, sell the value and try to get a good midfielder in through the door. I think sometimes like trades can really make or break your season. I've seen some managers just win the league with a couple of trades like early on. Like I think back to the lifestyle league that Value Added Fantrax is part of. I think he was late in the draft and ended up drafting in Trent, but then did a really early trade when there's a lot of rumors about Salah possibly leaving the league and that sort of stuff, and traded in Salah. And he's basically walked the league because of that, right? And obviously, it's hard to like get a Salah at this point, but there's good enough assets that are missing, performing badly, that I think, again, you can buy low on.
Yeah, for sure. I am a serial trader, and I've had some decent ones and some stinkers this year.
Did waivers clear for you already, by the way, for these leagues?
No, they haven't. They're both they're both Thursday, Friday for these two. So I have another day to sit on some trades and think about what I want to try and haggle out.
All right. So let's look at my league updates now. So we'll start with IGL. I got another win, 131-96. My lead is currently 21 points. So like the thing is I think if I win one more game, it's like officially confirmed. Like even if I lose all and I still have, I think, the highest points for in my league, I should technically already have it in the bag. But if I win this weekend on the Sunday, which is my birthday, it's going to be fantastic to get my first ever community title. So I'm really hoping it plays out like that. In terms of standout performers, yeah, I know. It would be great. Happy birthday to me, like, in terms of standout performers in this league, Vicario, really happy that I brought him in. He's been doing bits, especially, Spurs concede chances. He's a decent keeper, so he's always going to be making saves, for any game that they play. Chris Richards, Tarkowski, Jack Harrison as well came clutch this game week. Iwobi, Salah, and Philogene, another forward that I brought in, has been ghosting quite well for Ipswich.
He's looked really good.
In terms of yeah. If he's free in any of your leagues, I'd say go get Philogene. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he was one I had my eye on early season because I was hoping he was going to get into that Villa team because I really liked his underlying numbers, and he didn't. But I am trying to figure out if I can clear some forward roster space for him anyway.
Yeah. It must be possible. Yeah. I'm sure you. I would risk dropping the likes of Rutter even because he's not always nailed to start, right?
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
You're gonna have to make some tough calls.
Yeah, for sure. I keep wondering if it's worth holding him as a handcuff to JP or not. That's what I've been debating that one for a while now, like whether it's actually worth it.
Yeah, but not all cuffs end up playing out the way you expect them to in that sense, right? Sometimes the replacement isn't good enough. And there's no insurance of penalties with Rutter as well, I think. So that's another thing to kind of consider. In terms of regrets, nothing really. Big win. Concerns. Too many midfielders now. Because my waiver run went way better than I expected. Expected it to. So I'm gonna have to either drop or trade one. I think so, because like I don't know if it's I have too many mids or I don't have enough forwards and defenders to kind of play. So somehow I've landed myself in an illegal roster. So I need to fix that basically. But basically the players that I got in for this game week was Nicholas Dominguez from Forest, Bellegarde from Wolves, and Sulemana from Southampton. I thought they all had good fixtures, like Bellegarde and Sulemana both playing each other. So maybe I drop one of them. But Nick Dominguez is coming up against Ipswich. He's been ghosting okay the last few games. And I mean, when you play a promoted team, there's always opportunities to get an attack in return, right? So
yeah,
if I'm not going to be playing him, at least going to be blocking someone else from playing him against me.
yeah, for sure. I like the Dominguez shot. I mean, Forest have been great, so
Yeah. And again, chasing Champions League, like I'm sure they want to get as many wins under their belt as soon as possible. In terms of DPL, I had a win there as well, a bit of a squeaky win, 112 to 109. I think I was all out on 112 and up by like 19 or 20 points, and I was facing Harvey Barnes, our Discord favorite, Harvey Barnes, but it was a bit of a nervous watch. I'm not gonna lie. I never celebrated so hard to see a player get substituted in the second half. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, because he was like looking like Newcastle's best attacker on the pitch during the game. So I mean, it's great to have him back for the cup final as well. Can't wait to see how that kind of plays out, but. To continue with the updates, standout performers, again, I have Vicario here, Enzo Fernandez, another Jack Harrison. I've got Iwobi here as well. Munoz, as always, such a reliable guy. I'm gutted to be missing him this game week. A lot of popular assets missing this game week, right? Liverpool missing, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, like we just mentioned. In terms of regrets in DPL, a couple of 50-50 calls. Not playing Kirkes, and I played Brennan Johnson instead, who got, I think, negative 1.5 and got hauled off at halftime, and Kirkes went on to smash it with that beautiful cross, got double-digit points as well. I keep telling people on the pod, like, play your assets against Spurs. Like, assets love scoring points against Spurs.
Kirkes is my D4 in the Discord Super League, and I keep, like, every week it's a debate of do I start him or Huijsen, and I always start Huijsen, and then Kirkes gets a return, and I'm like, fuck. Got it wrong again.
It always happens.
Yeah, I swear, it's like whoever you don't start will do better. It's just in the cards. It's in the stars and in the cards. So, but
you do great in a bench league.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
other regrets was Pinnock versus Ager as well. And I kind of made that decision based on how they performed last game week. Like, I benched Ager, he scored well. I started Pinnock, he didn't play well. So I've got a similar sort of situation as to what you described. Benching Enciso here as well. Like, I really didn't expect him to be back in the lineup at all.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone did. I saw him starting and I immediately just grabbed him and dropped someone else. Like, I can't remember who I even dropped. It might have been Tall Paul, who didn't even end up starting for Southampton. So it kind of worked out massively in the end. And I dropped Garnacho after, holding on to this guy for so long, and then he fucking goes and gets an assist, double-digit score. But you know what? People in the Discord are telling me, don't worry about it. It's just a flash-in-the-pan moment. He's going to continue to frustrate whoever is under his managerialship or whatever you call it. But yeah, no, I'm not going to look back too much. In terms of roster concerns, it's a bit of a tight roster, and I'm in a situation where I might have to drop Njai, because I don't have too many forwards to kind of play with. I've got Pedro Neto here, I've got Brennan Johnson, and I've been holding on to Njai, but again, it goes back to it's, crunch time part of the season. You got to make tough calls, and now that Everton are somewhat safe, maybe there's not a rush for him to come back onto the pitch. Like, they found a way to kind of play without him.
Yeah, for sure. That's a tough one. That's a 12-team roster, right? Yeah. He's like, to me, he's like one of those forwards that's right on the cusp of like could be dropped, but also could be valuable in a deep league. So I think that To go back to your earlier advice, it really just depends on how big of a bind you are to hold him. Like how big of a bind that puts you in, and if you can get more upside by dropping him, I would do it because to your point, I don't think he's guaranteed to walk straight back into that 11, and if he does, he's not the player that like you could regret too much anyway. Like I don't think he's going to turn into Luis Diaz or Mo Salah. Like he's not going to start putting up those kind of numbers. And if you can shore yourself up in the short term or start planning for some of end of season stuff by dropping him, I would do it.
Yeah. All right. And no waivers here because DPL usually clears on Thursday and Friday. So I think that's it for league updates. So now what we'll do is take our halftime pint and we will be back after the break with some questions. So we'll see you in a bit. And we are back. So do you have like a favorite beer that you usually have on like match day weekends or something like that? Is there a go-to?
I'm not a big beer drinker actually, but I drink a lot of hard cider, which is sort of lame, but like, it's what I like, so that's what I do. I like the Stella European ciders a lot, and then they have a couple local brews around here, like Down East and other stuff. That's kind of my go-to drink. Not that I drink that much during the game day, though, because it's like very early in the morning here, so I'm usually like...
true. I forgot time zones are a thing.
Yeah, I'm usually like chasing kids around the house and like feeding them breakfast while I'm trying to watch a game or check lines. Man, speaking of which, it's so hard to watch soccer for the kids. So.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are your kids?
So I have a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. So very young and very much want to get up and watch their own shows on the weekend and not watch footy. I usually have to like bribe everyone to get to watch City every weekend, and that's about all I can like get in. Like sometimes I'll try to like exercise or something like while the game is on, so I could like put it on my iPad or something like while I'm exercising, because it's just so hard to like cram it into the day sometimes. It was great. Having a newborn is great, especially on the East Coast for watching footy, because it was like the baby would cry at 7 a.m. I'd be like, I'll go down and like sit on the couch and like feed the baby and snuggle and like watch a soccer game. Now the older one like wants to do her own thing, and I'm like, ugh, like very hard to get anything on the television that's not like, cartoons or something like that. But yeah, that's how old the kids are. I'm actually on paternity leave right now with the younger one, which has been great. But again, the older one's home by the time the Champions League fixtures come on, so I'm just like...
There's no winning.
Yeah, I'm like, why can't you kick these off like you do the UK fixtures that are like 10 a.m.? That would be prime time to sit with a 5-month-old and like watch a game. Not at 3 p.m. when my older one is tearing around the house, but what can you do?
What can you do? All right, let's get into some questions. So I'll take the first one. From No Riley, Arteta's best post-match excuses so far. The grass is too long, it was windy, the ball was flying differently. What will be the next excuse? Crowd too loud, Moon not at the correct position?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, that's a really funny question. Gosh, what would he use as an excuse? Maybe the corner flags were improperly put in for the corner kicks, or the pitch. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I wonder what he would blame, man. Maybe like the color of something. Maybe the color of the banners, or
the opponent's socks weren't the right color or something like that.
Yeah, could be that. Yeah. I'm sure. didn't he kick off about like the free kick, like the fact that United took the free kick from like a slightly different position as well? Like,
oh, don't even get me started on that after what happened in our game against them earlier this season.
It might be a sponsor. Maybe he blames the sponsors. I wonder if he'd ever blame like the mascots, the kid mascots.
He was standing behind the goal. I feel like one of the fireworks at the hotel the night before, like that has to be in his arsenal somewhere.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
Could legit be anything. But yeah, thanks so much for the question. Do you want to take Sweetness's first question?
Yeah, Sweetness McBossman. What is your strategy going into blank apocalypse weeks like 29 with players on your team who aren't playing?
Yeah, so this is a fantastic question because I did have it in our notes that I kind of wanted to touch on it. Maybe like, you know, again, if you're like in a position where it's a must-win in your league race, title race or whatever, and you're considering, you know, dropping these assets that aren't playing. So I guess let's go to Aston Villa, I guess in alphabetical order to kind of kick things off. Ollie Watkins, we're holding, obviously.
Yep.
Tielemans, I'm assuming we're holding as well.
Yeah, I would hold Tielemans. That's actually my big debate for the Discord, for our league, for Banter Super League, because obviously I'm not dropping Kevin De Bruyne. But with Tielemans also out, I'm down 2 midfielders off the bat going into the game week, and I'm like, do I drop Tielemans?
I'm surprised you're still holding on to KDB, man. That's just like some Man City blind love right there.
It's pure stubbornness at this point.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like other than maybe Morgan Rogers on this list, I feel like everyone else from Villa is a drop.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that they have anyone who's valuable enough to hold besides the 3 that you mentioned. Maybe Digne, maybe, but probably not. Not if you're in a pinch for any of the others, I would say. I would hold Rogers, Watkins, and Tielemans, regardless of your concerns. But anyone else, if you need to drop to field an 11, I would drop.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you don't always also have to just drop them. Like, try and ship them out for a few fab as well, right? Sometimes, like, a few dollars can, like, be so clutch at this point of the season to get back assets as well, right? So, in terms of Crystal Palace, so this one again I think is a little trickier. I think you're holding on to the likes of Sar, Munoz, Mateta, Eze. This now it gets a little trickier. What are you doing about Mitchell, Tyreek Mitchell?
That's a tough one. It's a drop, probably a drop in a bind for me. Only in a bind. But if it is the difference of fielding 11 players or winning your game week, I would drop him.
Chris Richards?
I think the same thing. Like, he's not an asset that I would drop unless I absolutely had to. But if it's the difference between a win at this point of the season and not, I probably would do it. I'd also take into consideration how likely you are to get that asset back. If, like, do you have the fab to, go out next game week and drop 2 to 5 fab on whoever it is you're dropping to get them back, if that's important to you or not.
Yeah. And the thing is also, like, if you think that your situation is maybe too bad to actually fix, is it possible that you can maybe just swallow this loss? Because let's not forget, 2 of the teams that are blanking have a double game week on the horizon, right? So as much as we talk about dropping these, great Crystal Palace assets that are performing week in, week out, you're gonna be like killing yourself if you don't get them back for that double game week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Is it does depend a lot on who the rest of your assets are, who you're up against. Like, do you stand a chance of winning the matchup if you drop them? And also long term, like, does your league have playoffs? Are you contending for playoffs? Like, what do you have to think about with your long term roster considerations that, influences that decision? If you're, gunning for first place and playing the person in second or third and like this is a vital win for you, go ahead and drop. But if you need to take more long term considerations in mind, then consider holding.
Yeah.
Within reason. But I think I would call them like on the bubble players. Like they're situational. Like just do what your team needs, but they're not must holds or must drops in either instance.
Yeah. Even like goalkeepers as well, like Dean Henderson. I know he's been performing well, but again, like Andrew saying, maybe properly assess your situation and if you have to drop him, then just drop him. I'm sure you can get another keeper on the waiver wire, etc. And same thing like Wharton, again, another player who's kind of come back, performed well last couple of games. I know you're gonna be very hesitant to drop him, but again, you might have to make that tough call. Newcastle, I feel like I'm holding on to my Isaks, my Anthony Gordons, maybe Guimaraes, yeah, exactly. But everyone else, I feel like it would be an easy drop.
Yeah. I've been debating Jacob Murphy. It's probably a drop for me.
Yeah, I mean, he nearly dropped 0 points this game week, right?
Yeah, I think he's a drop. Again, situational, depending on what your matchup looks like and your long-term stuff, your long-term prospects of where you are in the league and stuff. But I agree with that.
Yeah. And then finally, a team that everyone pretty much owns assets from, Liverpool. Obviously, you hold Salah, Luis Diaz, Soboslai, Trent, maybe Verge, but then I think everyone else is a bit of a drop in a pinch.
Yeah.
Maybe Gakpo, Jota. Like, what are you doing about Gakpo and Jota? Like, Gakpo is kind of coming back from injury. Jota is like in and out. Those are tough ones as well.
Yeah, those. Fortunately, I don't own any of them, so I don't I haven't had too much of a headache with it myself. But I would probably try to hold them if I could swing it, like to hold them, and primarily because like we were talking about, potential Champions League title wrapped up early. Those last few game weeks, rosters could look like anything under the sun for Liverpool, I would imagine, and all of those players are going to be getting and sharing minutes, so they could be very valuable for a run-in or playoff situation. That said, you could drop them if you're like really needing to drop them, I think.
Yeah. It's man, there are gonna be some tough calls and some really tasty assets on the other side of this game week, man. It's gonna be very interesting. All right, I'll take Sweetness's next question. If you could make an EPL team and have a specific sponsorship on their shirt, and it would be anything that you choose, they have to do it, what would you put on their kit?
I love this. This is so funny. I think I would have Arsenal kits with "Stay Humble" on the front. would be my choice.
What I think I would do is put Nando's on Southampton, have them get relegated, so everyone knows that both Nando's and Southampton are terrible.
The only other thing that I thought of is, this is maybe like I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I hate Puma kits. Like, everything about Puma design kits I've always despised, and I hate that Man City shirts are made by Puma. Like, I just don't like their aesthetics. I don't like. I remember those
Yeah.
old Arsenal ones that were like bodysuits that Puma. Like I've never liked Puma kits, so I was like, I would just take a Man City shirt and just any other major kit brand, Nike, Kappa, Adidas, and just put their logo right in the middle and maybe force our hand in terms of changing our kit makers because.
Yeah, I mean, I miss our Adidas kits, man, that Chelsea used to have as well. Like, they were such clean kits, and yeah, it's all kind of going poopy butthole now. It's kind of sad. All right. Thank you, Sweetness, for your questions. We got a few more. Do you want to take Draft Pie's first question?
So given that both of your clubs, those clubs being Chelsea and City, make an insane amount of signings, what are the worst 3 transfers they've each made in the last 10 years or so? I'll let you go at this first.
The last 10 years.
You probably have a list as long as your arm.
Both arms probably. The first one has to be Danny Drinkwater, surely. Like, I have no idea why he even came to our club. I don't even know how many games that he ended up playing. Like, oh my god, he literally, it was like won the Premier League, and yeah, maybe we thought that we could create the next new partnership between him and Conte, and yeah, poor guy, man. Like, absolutely derailed his career by coming to us. Next, I would say, in terms of how much of a drop off he had in terms of his production, Andriy Shevchenko. I felt really bad for the guy when he came across to Chelsea. Like, I think there was a lot of expectations, and everyone knew how good he was for AC Milan. And yeah, he just absolutely shot the bed. I don't want to put the obvious Lukaku there. Everyone is going to call his name. I'm not going to put Torres there because he helps us win the Champions League. So I think the next one would probably be Bakayoko. Timur Bakayoko. After, where was he? He was in Ligue 1. Which was I can't remember was it Monaco? I think he came from like that same cohort of like Mbappe and all of them, Bernardo Silva. So much expectation, had a really good season, and then yeah, did fuck all when he came for us. And honestly, he was more a hindrance than a help on the pitch. What about for you?
I just have to ask, no Modric on that list? How much did you spend on him?
I was trying to avoid it, you know. It's the pain is too real, it's too soon. It's funny, like he has this what's that tattoo that he has on his neck? Something about talent isn't everything. And I think it's quite ironic because he had zero talent basically. But yeah. I was trying to quickly move on, you know, before you brought up that point.
Yeah, you were like, over to you. I was like, don't think I'm not going to ask you about Modric.
What about City?
Oh man, this is tough. I did some combing this morning of like our historic signings because I just was like, I need to refresh my memory on some of the stinkers there. I feel like the obvious one to say would be Calvin Phillips, so I think I'm going to swerve that one because as much as I think we obviously spent way too much money on him at $50 million and he like barely played a game for us, I think the idea of what we were trying to sign there was right. Like every indicator was like he should fit at City and would be a good player under Pep, and it just didn't work for obvious reasons. But so I would say that would be my very close fourth. But Benjamin Mendy, for probably very obvious reasons, we spent a shitload of money on him in between injuries and other issues that we're not going to talk about on the podcast. He's number one for me. Eliakim Mangala, I think we spent $45 million on him.
Oh,
and
wow,
he was just shit. He was like, never good enough. And Wilf Bonny is going to be my number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I almost forgot he played for us until I looked at the list.
Yeah,
I was like,
I forgot about that.
I forgot we signed
Swansea.
him. But I would put him, because we spent a pretty good bit on him, I think, too. It's like 25 or 30 million or something like that. Not like, you know, insane level spending by today's standards, but we're talking 2015. Like, that's a good chunk of change for someone who did fuck all his City shirts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it was just a weird signing. Like, I don't know what the thought process there in terms of like player club fit was. Like, obviously did great things at Southampton or at Swansea rather, but
Yeah.
just I don't know what we were thinking in bringing him in.
He was still better than Mudryk, I'll tell you that much.
Fair point. Better value for money, at least.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'll take Draft Pie's next question. Let's talk Cunha. 2 games left of his red card ban, plus a charge for bad behavior after the red. Last time he got 2 games for that. So let's assume he misses 4 out of the last 10 games. Is there a trade for him that makes sense, as in trading him away? What if he misses 6 of the last 10?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Like assuming he gets an additional ban, I think that there is a world where it makes sense to trade him. Obviously, he's been lights out.
Yeah.
But I feel like if your focus in your league right now is more on either contesting a first position or trying to secure a playoff spot or avoid relegation in any of those instances, and you need a performer now rather than 4 to 6 weeks from now, then yeah, I tried to draw up a short list of like who would you maybe be able to get for him? Like, would you take João Pedro for Cunha?
No, probably not. My head keeps going back to Cole Palmer for some reason.
Yeah. Do you think the Palmer owner would trade for Cunha though, given the ban and possible suspension?
Yeah, that's also a good point. What about Saka?
I mean, I would do that if I could get it.
Yeah.
Like, if I could get it done with the Saka owner, I would do it.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, we go back to the original discussion that we had about teams with something to kind of play for. The teams that are kind of fighting for Europe or whatever. I don't know if maybe you'd do like a Cliver +1 or very like a soft one or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd probably want something else with Isak because Isak doesn't really ghost as well as Cunha does.
Yes. Chris Wood. Did you take Chris Wood for Cunha?
Chris Wood doesn't really ghost. I mean, he's been prolific this season, but I think way too return dependent for my liking.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe with something.
Yeah.
But not as a standalone.
Yeah. But again, it's a very tricky one until we know how many games Cunha is missing for sure. It's very hard to kind of gauge this trade, right? I mean, you can be clever with it and then be like, okay, maybe he's not missing as many. You trade him before they announce it, and then he actually ends up missing, like Pi suggests, the 6 out of 10. But again, you gotta be careful with it. Is this a straight league or is this playoffs like you mentioned? Like, there's a lot of factors to kind of consider for sure.
Yeah. What about Nico Jackson? He's back after the March internationals, right?
Yeah.
Or at least reportedly back. That was one that
I'd consider that one. I'd consider taking Nico Jackson because again, Chelsea looking to get Champions League, and I feel like our squad in general, like Cole, will thrive with Nico back. I think that's who he's been missing a lot at the moment.
Yeah. That was one of the ones I liked more on the list that I maybe was considering.
Yeah. Maybe Odegaard because Saka's coming back. Maybe his points kind of go up a bit.
Yeah, that could be a good shout. I think I also wonder is assuming the worst, assuming he is out for 6 out of 10 games, does he come back to, being on the beach, to your point, or,
What is Vitor Pereira gonna do?
Dreaming of
Yeah.
summer transfers to pastures new. Like, what does that look like for him? But to your point, I think it really does depend on, is there an additional ban? How long is it for? Because if it's just the 2 games, you're not going to give him up for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. All right. Pie's final question: Palmer or Holland?
You want to go weigh in on this one first?
I think everyone knows where we're gonna vote.
Are we talking as a Fantrax asset or in real life?
Let's go IRL. If you had to take either one of these players for your club right now, who would you take?
Holland.
Yeah, I think I'd take Holland. We've been crying for a striker for like the longest while, so.
Yeah, and despite our KDB aging issues, I just think Holland is a 1 in a million player. Like, you cannot go and replace it. Like, we could always, go sign a Wirtz or look at, like some of those type of players that are, not saying they'll ever reach KDB's heights, but at least can functionally do some of the things he does for our team. Like, I don't think that Holland's skill set and, frankly, like, physical attributes are pretty unique in the game to be able to replicate.
Freak of nature is what the term you were looking for.
yeah, exactly. He is a freak of nature. Some of the acrobatics he does with that large of a body is just astounding.
It's mental. Yeah, it's crazy. I take Holland IRL. Like I mentioned, we found a way to kind of cope while Palmer has been struggling. And yeah, I still think we lack a proper goal scorer. But Fantrax wise, I think I'd probably take Palmer.
Yeah. This season, I would say yes, definitely. It particularly given some of the midfield struggles that have been well documented, like difficulty having a consistent mid one. Like, I think that he is very much that, and one of the few like very consistent midfielders. So Fantrax wise, yeah, I'd probably take Palmer over Holland, despite my allegiances. In a year of thinner forward pool, I would probably stray Holland.
Yeah.
Or when we're just less terrible. But,
yeah.
Them's the breaks, I guess.
Yeah. Final question. Do you want to take it?
Name a club which started performing better after moving to a new stadium. This is a good one for you to answer, because I frankly do not keep up with stadium moves or form post-stadium moves.
Yeah, same actually. Like, who genuinely moved stadiums and started doing well? Like, Spurs had that weird phase where they like played at Wembley for a bit, and
I was gonna say not Spurs. That was gonna be my answer to this question.
I mean, Everton is set to move. West Ham maybe moving from Upton Park to the London Stadium. I mean, they won a European trophy, so I guess we've done that.
Yeah.
Arsenal, maybe Arsenal got worse. Like after the Invincibles, like what have they really done other than a couple of cups? Like,
I think there's something to be said about those old, small grounds, like
more
than the fan.
It's more romantic as a football fan, I think, when you've got that sort of setup. So it is what it is. All right, cool. Those are the questions, and that is the pod. Andrew, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the pod, mate. Do you have any final words, any final pieces of advice before we sign off?
Thanks, man. It's been awesome. Really, like, long-time listener. Super fun to join you for this one. And yeah, just get ready for playoffs. Like, pick up the right players, drop the right players, and just know that, like, inevitably something that you do will come back to bite you, but that's okay. It's just a game. Like, we all want to win, but, a lot of times we're making decisions in a vacuum and the results are not, forecasted to us. And I have to remind myself that constantly because I'm constantly kicking myself for the decisions I make every week.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Ross always says, right? Just have fun. It's just a game. A lot of this shit is out of our control, right? And let's just try to enjoy the ride while we can. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure having you part of our Discord, our community. I was really excited to finally have you on the pod as well. We've got a couple of other Discord members that are popping up in a couple of future episodes as well. So yeah, I thought, while Ryan was studying for his exams, that's what he's saying. I thought you know what, it's almost like a way to kind of give back to the community, because without you boys, we'd be nowhere, really. Just a couple of lads just chatting shit. And that's it, right?
It's awesome, man. We love it. The community's great, and so happy to be a part of it and do this with you.
Thank you so much, man.
Hopefully we'll again someday.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do this again. But yeah, other than that, listeners, if you have any questions, come join the Discord. It's free to join. Just DM me for a link. We can get that set up. But yeah, until next time, peace.